All right, boys. Episode 46 of the Milk Bucket Podcast.
We're here. We got me, Baz, Aaron. We got a special guest. Before that, boys, I fucked up this week.
Oh, what?
Oh, yeah? I was at the gym and I did that. I was there with a gym buddy and they were trying to motivate me. So while I was doing lat pull down, they put my phone underneath the weight.
No.
Trying to motivate me to get the fucking reps. And I had to get 12.
Yeah.
Bro, I got 11 and a half and I shattered my phone.
No.
I feel like there was no way I could have stopped it
Did
breaking.
you not have a
though.
case on your phone?
I mean, who has a case these days?
You don't have a case?
No.
Bro.
Wait, what? Do you know a guy?
Of course I know a guy.
Wait, who's the
Like,
guy?
it depends if you like supporting local artists.
I mean, I like supporting local
Do you
artists.
like biodegradable cases?
Of course. I like trees are great.
If you like trees and like supporting local artists.
No, but these cases always cost so much money and the discounts are always like 2% or something like that.
Mate, I've got a surprise for you.
What?
I can get you 20%.
Fuck off.
I can get you
You're
20%.
taking the piss.
All you've got to do, hit the link in the description below. Puppy cases, mate. They'll sort
Puppy
you out.
cases.
They'll sort you out.
Fucking ease fees. Hit up Puppy.
Hit up Puppy.
Anyway, talking about gym, we got Ravi, a fucking fitness expert in the business, right in the building right now, I should say.
Absolutely.
G'day, mate. How you doing?
Boys, thanks for having me. iPhone under the lat pull down. I got to remember that one.
Well, have you never done that before?
No, that must be.
Are you telling me this isn't a standard motivation technique for your clients?
I think your friend's he's onto something. There.
I feel like we've done that a few times. So
We've done some dumb shit before.
back when we were in high school, we would all sneak into my gym, which was Anytime Fitness.
Yeah.
And the way we would do it is because only one person can tag in at a time. So I would tag in and then pass it to my mate, and then he would wait 1 minute and tag in, pass it to his mate. And we had 6 people come into the same gym at like 2 a.m. thinking that we were sly and no one would
Baz.
realize.
I'm also Baz.
This bad guy lost a lot of things in his car. Fuck me. Anyway, I feel like we haven't introduced. So, Ravi, tell us about yourself. So, you're a PT.
Yes, I'm the co-owner at Aspire Strength and Conditioning. We're a boutique personal training and strength and conditioning studio in North Sydney.
Do you have like a website link or something like that?
Yes, we do. If you go to aspirestrength.com or even just a search of Strength Training North Sydney, you can find us.
Beautiful. We'll have the link down below for everyone just in case you're interested in the North Sydney area, you said?
Yes, North Sydney.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. And he also does a bit of online as well.
Oh,
so if
fantastic.
If you have any questions or anything like that, you're interested in signing up, reach out to him on. Do you have an Instagram? That you can,
Yes, Rav de Silva _. I'm sure you guys can tag that on.
Yeah,
there.
100. Hit the
Absolutely.
links down below.
Yeah.
So what was your journey like getting into fitness?
I'll give my not so PC answer.
Yeah.
If you boys can attest to this. But,
I wanted to fuck bitches.
yeah, you're onto that. Give a little story. First few times dating my beautiful girlfriend. Shout out to Keats.
Oi.
Shout out.
First few dates, the topic of powerlifting kind of came up, and on that she just off the cuff remarked, said, "Oh, how much do you lift?"
Oh, yeah.
No, she's a good chick if you've managed to weasel powerlifting into a conversation and she asks you how much you lift. That's a good woman right there.
Well, I'm like, all right, I've actually found a girl who might be relatively impressed by like the way I'm lifting. I'm like, all right, I've got a 272.5 kilo deadlift.
Oh,
Kind of bring myself up.
is that?
She gives me this look that's like, is that good? I'm in my head just thinking, like, fuck yeah. It's good. So if I can give a little bit of advice to your listeners as someone who's fairly far along in the iron game, in terms of girls, unless they train themselves, they have no context of this world and they just do not give a shit. So
Wait,
don't care
what
about
was the
weights.
deadlift again?
272.
Kilos?
Yes.
So for American viewers, that's 599 pounds.
Jesus
Fuck me.
Christ.
I mean, you get a lot of praise from fellow gym bros.
Yeah.
We've spoken about this before. The evolution of the gym bros. You start off as a small, skinny little man trying to get girls, and then you get in there and you get like your first gym buddy, and he gives you like, "Oh, your arm's looking good, bro. Like, good work." And then you quickly realize that you're there to look good, like look big in front of other dudes. You know what I mean? It quickly becomes a massive dick measuring contest. But it's fucking, it's good, you know.
The other thing with Ravi is that he's not any normal personal trainer.
Yeah.
What are your qualifications?
So I've got my good old Cert 3 and Cert 4. I got a master's in nutritional science.
A master's. But I mean your real qualifications. We know your deadlift. What's your squat and what's your bench?
And also, what's your bench?
I mean, everyone wants to know the bench, and unfortunately, that's my weakest of lift. I've got a 135 kilo bench.
Oh, that's still good.
Something at least.
That's
and,
pretty good.
220 kilo squat.
Fuck me.
220.
Yes.
So that's five plates each side.
5 plates.
Jesus Christ. And to give everyone context, when you go into most of the local gyms you go to, they'll have their Cert 3, Cert 4, like, so they can legally teach classes and get paid for it. Yeah. But the nutrition is the key thing that I think separates you from like most gym people you see, because they're just like, oh yeah, go on musclechef.com and get your fucking meals delivered for you. But
that's it, man. I mean, in terms of my journey into kind of getting into the industry, I mean, prior to getting into that, I was kind of finishing up the master's degree, and working as a trainer tied in really well with the people that I wanted to work in.
Of course.
I didn't really want to work in a nutritional clinic as such. I wanted to be directed more as people focused on body composition, as well as strength athletes who have a lot of like weight class limitations to their sport. That's kind of more dictating what I wanted to do. In terms of like being in a trainer itself, I've actually got some insider goss from my PR team that old mate Baz has a bit of beef with the PT industry.
Tell him.
You rat, Chris.
Okay. I'm not gonna lie. I've got a bit of beef with PTs. I'll tell you why though, because I feel like all of them, well, not all of them. That's the worst word to use, especially for our interview. But a lot of them just have like an online degree that they did somewhere, and they're telling people to do like a program that is good, but it's not going to get them to where they want to go to as quickly as possible. So for example, I had a mate who signed up for Anytime Fitness and he wanted to get as strong as possible. He goes to the local PT and he says to do some like HIIT workout that had some burpees to do with it and bit of this, bit of that. And he was getting some results, but he was making no strength gains because he's doing 20 burpees and then doing a bit of skipping and a bit of that. And I was telling him, like, I feel like you should probably jump on a strength program. You can find
5x5, yeah.
Something like, and this PT, it seemed like he was just stringing him along and giving him as little progress as possible that he would not need it. He won't be able to leave the PT.
Yes.
But he was giving him enough progress that he was staying with them.
Online PTs have that problem as well, because they realize they can sell something for $80 online, like a program. And are they going to actually spend the time to like make it work for someone, or are they going to sell a cookie cutter one? Like you've got the, I don't know, do you know Kino Body, Gregor Gallagher? Yes. Motherfucker sells, got this big mansion that apparently he owns, and he just sells.
He's got the bag.
He's got the bag. Oh, really? Yeah, he's a businessman. But yeah, it's like, it's the same product for every single person. It's like train 2 times a week, hit incline bench, and do pistol squats.
Actually, here's a good question to start off with, but what's a good way to find out that your PT is giving you the right advice?
That is good.
I mean, this is a difficult question, especially if you're coming from the context of, I don't know if your mate has much like information or insight of like fitness world prior to coming into that.
He watched Mike Chang's videos back in the day.
He's an excellent
Oh, what a lot of towel workouts.
Mike Chang videos are a real throwback.
Wow.
The towel workouts when he's doing this one. Oh, bro.
This will get your chest looking like this.
That's the thing though, like someone with a very limited kind of context to understand, like anything, right? But you act with enough confidence, even if you're spreading your bullshit, like you can sell it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a bit skewed in that. I did start there actually in my like fitness journey. I had a relatively shit PT, but I stuck around long enough to kind of figure out shit for myself, like training myself for a long time as a powerlifter.
Yeah.
You learn what good programming is. You learn what you need to do. In degree tied in very well what you need to do nutritionally. In terms of vetting your personal trainer, best advice I can give is consult your gym bros, like someone who actually has a bit of an insight into what good training is. Because, I mean, you're not going to just kind of go off out the bat to learn what good training is as such. So, yeah, I mean, just talk to your mates who are actually into training. If his PT is telling you to do a bunch of burpees and you want to get a 5-plate squat, you probably need to find a new PT.
That makes sense.
No, I feel that. And you say good training. So when you say good training, obviously that depends on what their goal is. But if you have the standard person who, and because our audience are, around the 15 to 25-year-old range, say we have someone who's kind of skinny fat and just wants to get more toned. I bet you hear that all the time.
What do you think of the word toned?
It's the bane of the personal training.
Is it actually?
It's a bit of a misnomer in the sense, I mean, you guys will probably know this, but you encounter it a lot with female demographics, especially. I want to get toned, where I'm like, all right, here's an idea of what you might need to do is spend a bit of time strength training, eating in a surplus to build some muscle, and from there going a bit of a deficit to get that tone going. And in their mind, as soon as you lift something heavy like perform a deadlift, you're going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. So overall, that term tone is a bit of a misnomer. Doesn't really occur. You're either building muscle, losing fat, along those two lines.
I was actually going to ask you on the back of that, is your usual advice for people that are in the skinny fat region to gain first and then to cut down?
I think it depends. Like if you're looking at the context of someone who's first entering the gym, you can kind of go a long way with the term recomposition. So what I mean by that is gaining muscle and losing fat simultaneously. To do that calorie-wise, you'd probably want to be eating like at your maintenance level calories. I can go into how to actually calculate that practically for you guys, but that's essentially eating at a calorie intake where you're maintaining your body weight. Just with the training stimulus alone, that'll go a long way to kind of getting you that toned look. That's from the context of someone who's just getting into training for the first time.
Putting that in layman's terms, you're eating enough that you're not gaining or losing weight with the exercise you're doing.
Exactly.
You're eating what your body needs.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And nothing more or less.
Yeah.
Do you think it is legally allowed to punch someone if when you ask them for a spot and you're struggling a bit, but you haven't given up yet, you're still fighting the rep, they just rip the fucking thing off you? Is rep stealing a crime punishable by the law?
There's two sides of this. I come from like a business professional background. I'm like, oh,
Don't
it's
hurt the
okay.
clients.
It's from the gym. You might not know what you're doing. And I come from a powerlifting background where if you steal my rep, you die. You die. So yeah, I'm a bit skewed on that one.
Here's another question.
Yes.
What if they're big?
What is it?
Oh, yeah. Ooh. Like, what if they look like they don't have an excuse?
They should know better.
Yeah. It's a good question. You just kind of...
I'm not asking philosophical. He's got a master's degree. He knows the answers. I feel like in that case,
I think if they've been around enough, they kind of know. They kind of know.
They should know. Yeah.
I've had now ex-girlfriends in the past that have stolen reps for me, and like.
Oh, really? That's why. No wonder they're ex.
That's why there's an ex-girlfriend.
Do you get girlfriends to spot you?
Well, my last girlfriend was like fairly into training, so but she should have known better, honestly, and steal my fucking rep, honestly.
Unforgivable. Is there ever a temptation to walk up to the weight she's squatting and use it as like curls? Because I've had that thought. You know what I mean?
That's some bro science shit.
Because I know it's not an audio thing, but Ravi's got some big fucking arms right here, bro. Like, man's got the bicep vein pumping, you know?
I'll ask you another question that's quite similar. When you get clients, or actually if you train with a girlfriend or something like that and she's kind of expecting you to show her around, is there anything about, because no one actually needs a spot with a squat.
Yeah.
But whenever I see a personal trainer training a woman, he's always giving her a comprehensive spot.
Getting a bit too handsy on the old squat, right?
Does that happen a lot with, the female clients?
I mean, realistically, there are ways to be a squat and not kind of like molest someone at the same time. Yeah.
No, but you're just giving her a spot.
Yeah.
Making sure that her safety comes first.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah. I think you can. I think you can do that in a non-creepy way. Yeah.
I've got a question, but I'm not going to ask it. I'm going to wait till after the podcast. This won't be good for business.
After dark.
I do have a question. So when you're first getting into gym, a lot of people hear about ectomorphs, endomorphs,
mesomorphs.
Yeah. Do those exist or are they made up?
Yeah. So the old somatype.
Yeah.
It's a great question, man.
Yeah. I think the somatype thing can be broken down more into whether you're a hard gainer, someone who has like a quick metabolism compared to someone who has a slower metabolism. Somatype kind of like archetypes you. You must have seen those diagrams on Instagram.
Sure.
Like
Diagrams.
You're a mesomorph. You just look at a weight and you put on muscle.
Yeah,
or you're an endomorph and like you eat a grain of rice and you get fat. It doesn't quite work to that degree, but it's more so, I'd say, nutritionally wise and like how you're gaining weight, what your composition is to your metabolism degree, like how well you can process food.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Off the back of that,
what
about rep ranges?
Yeah.
Are those a real thing where some people need to do? He actually brought it up earlier.
Yeah, so my question was, you always hear gym rats say like, oh yeah, like 8 reps just doesn't work for me. Like, my body doesn't like that. And but I've been around enough gym rats to know that they tried it for 2 weeks and said, I'm bored of this one, I'm going to go back to my old workout. So are humans built like snowflakes where everyone is unique, or are we all kind of similar where like if you do 4x6, you're going to get fucking decent chest? Like how different have you seen variations there? Like in response?
The rep range thing, I'll give the context of hypertrophy. So trying to build muscle, a lot of the kind of latest studies are showing as long as you're in a proximity to failure where you're anywhere from 3 and as much as like 1 rep away from failure, it kind of stimulates that same level of growth. So whether you're training somewhere in the 2 to 3, like a typical like power range, or anywhere from like the 8 to 12 range, if you're still going within that proximity to failure, you're going to get the benefits of the muscle growth. Where it can be kind of beneficial to vary your rep range, if you're using a weight that your 3 rep max or pretty close to your 3 rep max, that can be like quite a daunting task to do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, from the context of a powerlifter, like our sport is lifting 1 rep on the platform. Like we need to practice that lift, but like it may not be a like relatively realistic option for you to always be pushing like a 3 rep max. And also to equate that volume, like I don't know if you guys have heard like inverted rep schemes. So like the pretty typical rep scheme would be like a 3x10. You can, in theory, get that same stimulus by doing a 10 sets of 3, but also managing.
Actually.
Yeah.
And it'll be the same to the muscle.
As long as you're kind of
difference.
within that same proximity to failure. Logistics wise, doing 10 sets of 3, you're probably going to be in the squat rack for about 3 hours.
Yeah, people are just giving you the stink eye the entire time. Like this fucking.
I respect the fuck out of that when people do 10 sets of deadlifts or 10 sets of anything really.
So I'll give my program 2 times ago was do not use this as a recommendation. I recommend none of your listeners do this one, but there's this Russian squat routine.
This is not financial support.
Financial advice.
A Russian squat routine called Smolov, where you're squatting 4 times a week. And
I've heard that.
I'm literally in the squat rack for about 3 hours.
Your legs would be jelly.
3 hours.
Surely.
Wait,
It's horrible.
3 hours
Let's
a
not
week,
be
you
able
mean?
to walk.
Yes.
There's
Just 3 hours just squatting.
There's something about the Russian thing, because there's a Russian pull-ups thing as well,
Yes,
where it's like you do Parlev or something.
Palov.
Yeah. And you're doing pull-ups every day. And
Yeah.
it fucking, my pull-up game got way better after doing it, but sometimes you're like, I'm not working out today, but I'm walking to the gym to do my 5 pull-ups. You know what I mean? Like, it's fucking so
You know what? I want to kind of bring this back way more for a beginner, because someone that might be listening to this might have no idea what 3x10 means. They just want to, they're looking at people in magazines. They think they look good.
I mean, standard definitions is the first is sets, the second is reps. Sets are the amount of times you do the reps. So a 5x5 is 5 sets of 5 reps. Actually, that doesn't help. A 4x6 is 4 sets of 6 reps.
Yeah.
So you're doing 6 reps 4 times.
Well, what I was going to ask you is what would be, obviously the goal matters a lot. So it's hard to say what would you recommend, and we can split it off to 2 categories. So if you have someone who's like the classic skinny kid who wants to gain a bit of muscle, and then you have the classic chubby kid who wants to get toned, what would your recommendation be for both?
Toned?
So I think I'll tie it all back into like getting into the habit. I think it's a really good practice to learn how to track your nutrition. And I mean, it may not be I try to get all my nutrition clients, whether they are the skinny kid who's trying to get jacked, or the fat kid who's trying to get a bit toned, or even like some of my older clients who have just like general health and well-being goals, to go through a period of tracking, just having a period where you're just very cognizant of what you're putting in your body and like quite accurate about it.
So weigh
My Fitness Pal?
My Fitness Pal.
There we go.
How do you do that if you're living
Jeez
at
up,
home?
bro.
That's it.
If you're living at home,
Yes.
and say you have an online trainer who tells, so the advice you're getting is decent.
Yep.
But how do you track if your mum's making meal and you're just having a serving?
Tell your mum you're about that life.
You want gains?
Yeah.
Mom, it was never a phase. I'm just a sick cunt.
I mean, I can give you some like simplified nutrition recommendations, and on that, you still want to be tracking some kind of metric. So if you're not tracking your overall intake, whether you're trying to like gain weight, so I'll go through both kind of archetypes for that. So like the skinny kid trying to gain weight, you'll be tracking your weight, and also, I mean, this applies for both of them really. You're tracking your weight and you're tracking your body composition, and also if you're ideally running this kind of symbiotically with a training program, you're tracking your lifts and making sure you're progressing with that. In terms of what you can specifically do, the old plate formula. So if you're trying to gain weight, probably opt for more of your plate to be filled with carbohydrates, and a quarter lean serve of protein, the rest of that vegetables. If you are someone trying to lose weight, I'd probably like halve that carbohydrates and then more protein, more vegetables on top of that. This again is just like a very general recommendation for someone who's getting their food cooked for you.
As we said, not nutritional advice. So since we're on the topic of beginners, what are your thoughts on fat burners, BCAAs?
BCAAs.
Yeah, BCAAs. All the little like fancy potions you see at a fucking gym.
Everything that isn't whey protein.
Yeah, let's take out whey, potassium, like even
creatine.
pre-workout, let's take out.
Yeah.
But like, what do you think about the extra shits?
I briefly worked for a friend's supplement who established an online supplements company a little while ago. And I can attest to the fact that, especially when you go into like, I don't know if we have GNC, but whatever
The equivalent,
bullshit you get on the corner store, biggest snake oil salesman you can get. So they're going to try and sell you whatever crap they can get. There's, I mean, a good resource if you are interested to whether like you want to kind of check the efficacy of the supplement, examine.com. They go into like a really good breakdown of a lot of supplementation. If there are peer-reviewed studies, they will kind of go into that and see if these supplements are efficacious, whether it realistically works. The thing is, there's not a lot of governing bodies limiting the supplements industry beyond if you're putting like meth into your pre-workout. And even then, it'll last a few weeks on the shelf before they pull it.
Ironically, those are the ones you buy. When they tell you, oh, this is the last time because they got taken out, that's the first thing I'm going for.
Good old Jack 3D. Right?
Oh, Jack 3D, bro.
What was it in Jack 3D that made it crazy?
Methamphetamine.
For those that don't know, Jack 3D.
DMAA was the kind of chemical derivative that was just from the same family as meth.
Yeah. So it's like meth's younger cousin.
Yes.
It's like an amphetamine.
And that was in a pre-workout, which people took and then smashed workouts. That's what Ziz took it, wasn't it?
And they start smelling colours. And
Bro, I feel like pre-workouts don't hit the same as they used to, because I remember like taking a pre-workout when you're 17 and your fucking whole body's itching, you know what I mean? You feel like you could fight.
That's because we always took
something.
2 scoops. That's why.
Bro, yeah.
Started half a scoop. I'm like, all right, let's double this trick. Mama didn't raise no cow.
Actually, the way me and James used to do it was so fucking funny. So we would be there, we'd be like, all right, we'll go half a scoop. We haven't done it in a while. So we'd do half a scoop. And then he would put his first, and then I'd put like 3/4, like a little bit more. And then he'd be like, oh, you dickhead. And then he would put another half in his. So then I'd put half in. Before you know it, it was 2 scoops or 3 scoops.
4 scoops, bro.
You guys are pretty well versed on the like TikTok community. Have you been following the trends of like teenagers dry scooping their pre-workout, shotgunning it with a monster?
That's like dry scooping. What is your thoughts on dry scooping? I hate it. I can't do it.
So I'll give you like a quick little scientific rundown of like a lot of the ingredients in pre-workout are kind of literally activated by water. So at the very least, you're kind of negating a lot of the ingredients by dry scooping it. And
But you don't,
Baz, you bitch.
Okay, let me explain what dry scooping is. Because dry scooping, what you do is you put the powder in your mouth.
without a condom.
You put it in your mouth. Like you dip the scoop into the powder, put it in your mouth, and you don't just have it raw. But what you do is you then have water and you swish it in your mouth, or you have water already in your mouth.
Or if you have Monster, if you're not a coward, you know.
Or you have Monster if it's not enough caffeine.
I'm curious also, like with the youth, like a lot of times you maybe turn to the wrong YouTuber, right? So I want to throw some names at you. And as long as you've heard them, I want to get your opinion.
Yes.
So first, let's go with what we already said. Keno Body. What do you think? Do you believe in fasting? Do you believe in the million?
That's
the
a
Bruce
whole
Wayne
other
workout?
topic.
We'll go fasting.
We'll say
back,
fasting for later.
What do you think?
I am by no means an expert. I've recently gotten into. I'm not even doing my own research. I listened to Andrew Huberman. He's quite like big on the topic of fasting at the moment. The like physiological benefits are kind of finding for it. There are a lot of things that you can get benefit out of fasting. The shit Keno Body kind of preaches with it, probably not that. I mean, it is an approach that can potentially work for some people. There realistically is nothing magical about it.
Yeah.
Some Keno Body, that guy's such a meme, man.
Oh, he's great. Okay, and so to wrap that up, natty or not, Keno Body, what are we thinking?
I reckon that's like a realistic physique you can attain naturally.
I think he's natty.
All year? That's the question, because like it might just be he takes a lot of photos at once.
Mate, have you seen how much Pellegrino sparkling?
All right, next person, Omar Isuf.
Yeah, Omar's definitely a natural physique. It's like a good natural physique. That's something that you've attained over like a long period of training.
Got the ass chest.
That's it, the ass chest. That's it.
What do you think about his training style and like techniques?
He's definitely a guy I'd recommend for content. It's like good, solid, science-backed information. He's not trying to preach any kind of bullshit. Even the way he trains, it's like something that I'd preach for people to train like. So, Omar's really good content. Probably natty, no offense, Omar. But
all right, here's a controversial one. David Lade.
Have you heard of him?
I have heard of David Lade. funnily enough, like I had a YouTube recommendation on a short that was David Late in natural lighting. It's like stupid shit, but like it's just him in like looking like a mere mortal in like natural lighting. So
it's a regular guy.
Like a lot of that goes into like Instagram and social media. There's like so much smoke and mirrors. One thing with David Lade though, that is like potentially questionable, and also with that whole crew of like when there were 16-year-olds deadlifting 300 kilos.
The new like Ziz/Jeff Side people.
That's like quite questionable. So he'd be like on bordering for me, natty or not.
Yeah.
Is it the age that throws it away for you? That they're jacked and 20 years old?
Jacked, 20 years old, and also just the numbers they're lifting.
Yeah.
Like it's just...
I think he went from like 140 to like 60 bench press in like a month.
Yeah.
It was pretty ridiculous. Okay, last one. Probably the hardest one to directly confirm, especially with like the natty or not, but also the nutritional, like his opinion on things.
Right.
Jeff Cavalier.
Good old Jeff.
Athlete X. He's like 50 years old.
He's been around since the jump. Yeah. People don't know. I think he's trained sports teams and stuff. So he obviously has some kind of pedigree there.
Yeah.
But when you say it, he's like, I don't do bench press because I believe in the fucking 1 arm push up with a barbell. Like, it's just all this. And then like 2 weeks later, he'd be like, don't 1 arm push up with a barbell, do fucking jumping claps. It's like just, he's always the funkiest shit. And I don't know if he's trying to push content or if this is good. You know what I mean?
So I haven't really gotten into Jeff Cavalier's content too much. On paper, he's like a really qualified guy. Like he was a physiotherapist for the Yankees or something like that. So like you see that and you're like, wow, you must know your shit. But then he does tend to spurt like a lot of just crap. And you're like, I don't know. He could be up there as like one of the most unethical people realistically in the fitness industry, just from the fact that he probably does know better than the shit he is saying, yet he continues to say the shit he's saying because he has that outreach. Yeah.
And he needs a video that week.
He needs a video.
Okay, natty or not though?
Natty or not.
He's like 50.
He's 50 and he's about -2% body
fat. He's been jacked.
He's always shredded.
Shredded. Again, another borderline just from the level of conditioning that you kind of maintain.
And I guess it's your lifestyle, like that's your body of work almost.
But probably leading towards, especially at that age when you get like stuff like testosterone replacement therapy involved, border on not natty.
Yes. I think I agree with you, to be honest with you.
What is your, firstly, are you natty?
I am natty, yes.
Okay, what is your, do you know a lot, am I able to ask you some questions about steroids?
Yes. I'll disclaimer that I probably have like quite a limited knowledge on it, but I'll do my best.
Yeah, well, I mean, you said before that you're not qualified. I was about to say you're probably the most qualified. You're probably the most qualified person to be talking about what we're talking about right here. Not just in this audience, but probably in Greater Sydney. I'm 100% honest. So we've all heard of TRT. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe not everyone has, but it's testosterone replacement therapy. But essentially, they don't give you more than what you would have had when you're 21, 22.
That's what Joe Rogan's on. So it's what allows you to feel young when you're a bit older.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, first and foremost, we'll start off with TRT, kind of like the most simple, basic type that people have done for so long now. What are your thoughts on TRT?
Or just test in general, like when people take it for... Because I think TRT just keeps you feeling the same level, right?
Yeah, we'll just say at a healthy, let's say like around 1,000 of whatever the unit is.
A lot of the findings when they kind of look at testosterone depleting with age are they can kind of tie it in with a lot of the, not mortality, but a lot of kind of negative effects that kind of come with age, like frailty of the bones and just like sarcopenia, muscle loss as you kind of age with that. A lot of that tends to get negated with just TRT. Andrew Huberman put it really well, is that testosterone is something that makes doing hard things fun, enjoyable, good for you to kind of achieve. So like, I don't know if you can like encounter someone with like low TRT, it's like the propensity for depression and stuff like that is actually quite high. So I think it's a good thing. I won't lie, as soon as my testosterone dips, I'm just like calling my doctor. Like,
I'm with you, bro, 100%.
Is it easy to get in Sydney?
I don't actually know.
It is by a doctor, but yeah.
I think it's not as like readily available as it is. Like they have a lot of clinics in the States and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're definitely prescribing more than TRT does.
Yeah. Okay, I've got a question, right? So as a PT, you obviously deal with a plethora of people. If you had someone who was openly on steroids, like just juicing to the gills, fucking taking HGH, sorry, all that kind of shit, is there any like ethics where you're like, no, I train natural, or it's just like fucking like
Fucking no, I just put 7 plates on the bench like this, bro.
So would you approach it different? Because so like to break it down, and I'm sure you could go into this, like the whole protein synthesis lasting 48 hours is the whole basis around why like push pull or like full body is better than fucking bicep day and tricep day, right? And then like people say at least that when you take steroids you can extend it, and that's why these guys are yoked while only training chest and then only training back. Like, would you differ your program for these people?
Again, just with my knowledge of like performance enhancing drugs, it's pretty much out of my skill set. Again, my understanding is pretty similar to yours.
Yeah,
Like that muscle protein synthesis when you are on steroids tend to be stimulated for a lot longer than when you are not taking steroids. So as you said, like when you're a natural, you're trying to stimulate like muscle groups to grow multiple times a week. You can tend to get that stimulus from like the one training session a week. In terms of how I'd specifically program, on the split itself, that's an interesting one, because you can there are still a lot of steroid users who get away with doing like different splits, like push-pull legs and that sort of stuff. One of the considerations you have to think of is something that I actually do know is the propensity for like people on performance-enhancing drugs to tear tendons and tear ligaments, just because the growth that you get from your muscles is often not matched from your ligaments as well. So
on that, what did you think of the Larry Wheels video?
that guy's
Or
terrible.
I don't know if you know Callum von Moger.
Yes, I know Callum.
Just literally, it was just abseiling, and his ligament gave out, and
You
he
see him
tore his bicep.
do a 100 kilo bicep curl with Chris Bumstead. That was the like. That was the moment you saw the trajectory of Callum von Moger's life just kinda change from that.
He was going to become the Australian Bradley Martin, but then all of a sudden things were different.
Well, okay, speaking of steroids, a lot of young people are getting into SARMs. Do you know much about SARMs?
No, and that's the problem, man. Like,
Does anyone know much about SARMs?
I don't think anyone does.
I'm not advising anyone any of your listeners to get on performance enhancing drugs, but the one thing I will say is that people know a lot more about conventional steroids than they do SARMs. Yeah. The marketing, the selling point for SARMs was that it's steroids without the side effects. No one knows that. No one knows that. They've done like no long-term research. It's just like research chemicals at this point in time.
Do you know what it is? It's literally like gym supplements, except they actually work.
Yeah.
So it's all the fucking bullshit potion that they concoct together, but like it actually gives you a result. And so it's just so unregulated, Like,
Was it made for the gym, SARMs, or were they made for something else?
They're
and
for
then
animal,
people started, they're
animal
for animals.
usage, I think.
They're for
The
rats.
same as-
They're
okay.
for rats.
They're
You
for
buy them for rats.
gym rats.
Gym
There we go.
Okay, so your take, just to reiterate, supplements, mostly bullshit. What supplements do you take, actually?
So at the moment, it's predominantly health supplements, actually. I do take a whey protein. I think a whey protein is always a good one to take.
After your workout, or just every morning, or what do you do?
Honestly, I take it I look at it, even when I'm prescribing for nutrition clients, like there's a big kind of misnomer with protein that like it's a supplement. Whey protein is that first bag that your mum finds in your room when you first lift in. It's like, my son's on steroids.
Bro, you should have seen my mum's reaction when I brought some whey protein home. I had to keep it in my school locker because I couldn't tell her. She was freaking the fuck out that I was going to get side effects and that I was going to grow nipples and this and that. I'm like,
Grow nipples.
it's a bit of protein. Come on.
Yeah. I think you look at protein as literally just a way to supplement your protein intake because realistically, like the RDA that the government give is not like a realistic expectation of people who lift weights, let alone just like the average population need to kind of increase their protein intake. So I take it as out of convenience. I don't think there's necessarily like a good or bad to take it. If it kind of lines up with your schedule that you take a scoop of protein after you work out, great. I don't think there's anything magical about that. Other things that I do take is a fish oil omega-3 supplement just because I don't have a huge intake of fish in my diet. If you do, like you're eating some kind of fatty fish 2-3 times a week, then there's no necessity for it. Other than that, it's probably a good idea to take.
I'm going to go buy one. Don't eat this.
Vitamin D, we're not on video, but the co-host can see I'm a dark Sri Lankan boy. Have a bit of trouble with my pigmentation, vitamin D absorption, but even just everybody in general, I think it's advisable if you can get your blood work done, see what you are deficient in, see what you kind of should be taking rather than just blindly taking any sort of vitamins on that. In terms of like something that's directed to performance, I've had periods of taking creatine. On creatine, I think you had a user question on creatine specifically. It's used as fuel for muscle contraction, some cognitive function they've found as well.
Oh, really?
We produce it in our liver and kidneys. The problem is when we're trying to use it to fuel anaerobic exercise, i.e. lifting weights, you need something from the 5 to 10 gram mark. Our body produces about 1 gram at most, and to get it through any sort of dietary intervention, you have to eat half a cow a day. That's where supplementation from it would come in handy.
Yeah.
The misnomer with like creatine, not even just creatine, when they kind of cite a study for a new magical supplement that's coming in, is that not just in the research lab, when a person is using, so say like take you guys, like when you bought your pre-workout or your creatine for the first time, you'd set up an environment where it's super conducive to getting gains, right? Like your training's on point, your eating's on point, you're recovering well. You're like, oh fuck, this creatine's magical. Like you don't realistically know, like it's hard to be like numerical about the creatine gave me a 10 kilogram increase on my bench press. But however, having said that, it is a very well-researched supplement. At worst, you're not going to get anything from it. At best, you will kind of get some gains from it.
Because I do remember every time I've gotten on creatine, and I've gotten on it, and I always do the preloading thing where you take, what is it? You take 5
Saturate.
you take 5 scoops of it every day.
Yeah.
So you do 25 grams every day. And then on the 5th day, you're now able to do it. Because if you do the normal dosage, which is 5 grams a day, it takes 30 days for you to kick in. If you preload it and you take 5 times the regular dosage, it only takes 5 days to kick in.
So what I'd say on that is that it's not a supplement that works acutely. Like you'll likely not have a point where you're just like, wow, the creatine's kind of kicking in. It's more so, as you said, a supplement that you take that's saturated in your bloodstream and kind of works over a progressive timeline. Research kind of shows that you don't really need to cycle on and off for it. You can do the loading phase like Baz said, but if you're taking it over like an extended period of time, it's going to be loaded into your body either way. So yeah.
And that's why like when you're looking at pre-workouts and they're advertising, you know, creatine, beta, alanine or whatever the fuck one, all this shit, like a lot of the times the stuff that they're giving you inside that is not enough to substitute you just taking creatine every day. So you having creatine 3 times a week in your fucking protein shake or your pre-workout, it's not going to do anything unless you're actually taking it every day.
Yeah, I'd say just like a protein shake, if you are taking creatine, try it, make it habitual. Like after my workout, I have a protein shake, I have my scoop of creatine in it, because that's something you do want to be taking consistently to get the benefits from.
I've got a question to judge your character. What flavor protein do you buy?
I'm on a bit of a run of, I think it's a mocha flavored.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so,
that'd be pretty good.
I've never had mocha protein.
Okay. Look, I get the feeling it's just the protein company has spilt a barrel of coffee protein in the chocolate protein. But I'll buy it. It's enough marketing for me.
So does it make a difference if you have protein within half an hour of your workout?
Yeah, the good old catabolic.
Yes, sir.
They found that is actually true to an extent. Like you have a period of stimulating a hormone in your body called mTOR that stimulates that process of muscle protein synthesis, which is essentially training breaks down your muscle, reintroducing nutrients, i.e. protein into your body is what kind of builds it up. That period initially, I mean, I don't know if you guys, when you first got into the gym, you thought it was like that half an hour window, like out of the gym.
I'm going to lose all my gains if I don't drink it right now.
I'd literally like finish a workout and have forgotten my protein shake. I'm like thinking, oh, this is bullshit.
This is what wasted this workout.
For us in the last 2 hours. Fuck.
They've kind of found that window is more like a 24 to 48 hour period.
Oh, jeez.
Damn.
So the necessity to slam your protein shake straight after your workout isn't often there. In fact, in terms of like the digestibility of food, the 2 nervous state systems you can kind of be in is sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic nervous state system is when you're kind of like hyped up, fight or flight kind of nervous state system, it's actually quite hard for you to be digesting nutrients in that phase. So it might be a better idea to even like wait an hour, kind of chill out after your session, then have like a meal or have a protein shake.
But it is better to have it after rather than before.
Again, it doesn't matter if you're if your overall protein intake is good during the day, I'd still want to have some kind of protein feeding after your workout. Yeah, definitely. But there's not like a huge necessity to have like this amount of protein right after you train or anything like that.
Okay, cool.
Would you say it's more or less important to have carbs after your workout or protein?
So it kind of depends on what the training you're doing is. 100%. A lot of so realistically on the spectrum of training, the training that a lot of bros are doing in the gym, it's not really that hard. It's not really that glycolytically demanding. You're not using that many carbohydrates. You're doing 3 sets of 10 curls in the gym. You're training. It's okay.
It's true. It's definitely true.
Sorry for attacking anybody out there. But
I feel personally attacked.
Glycogen is your immediate kind of source for those like hard muscle contractions. That gets depleted to a degree after you train, but not to the one where you're kind of needing to refuel immediately. Having said that though, it's not going to be a bad idea just in terms of like aiding recovery to be eating your carbohydrates after your training. Also, if you're in a period of like dieting or you're just trying to limit your carbohydrates, eating that around your training window, so like pre and post workout, can potentially allow you to kind of just utilize those nutrients a lot better.
I've noticed that a lot I do a bit of boxing training, and when you're doing 8 rounds on the bag and at the end of it, you're feeling like fucking faint, like having carbs so it quickly gets into your system as opposed to like trying to munch down on some fucking fat or protein.
Funnily enough, I had a first training someone, I think it was last week, he went hypoglycemic. So absolute drop in blood sugar. He was like midway doing a goblet squat and just put it down and had to sit on the floor for the entire session. So I'm just like, give him a protein bar, eat some sugar, and yeah, he's good to go after that.
It's funny how the bloke brain works, especially the gym rat brain, because there was a period of time where I was training like heavy squats like quite consistently, and there was a period for like a month where after my final set of squats, I would just be feeling a bit faint and have to hold the bar for a second.
Yeah.
And I didn't go to a doctor. I was like, fuck that. I'm just going to go home and do bench tomorrow. You know what I mean? Just continue going. Like, exactly. I ignored it. Yeah.
Anyway, boys, so we do have, we have a bunch of questions from the Discord, but I've actually got a question for you first because we went completely off stray when we were talking about this before, but we were talking about what you would recommend for a skinny guy and then a chubby guy.
Yep.
And you talked about the nutrition part, but you didn't talk about the workout part. Mm-hmm. So I want to kind of hear what your suggestions would be, if they're even different at the two, but I want to hear your suggestions for either.
Just quickly, 1, I want to get a beer, but 2, we don't want to you don't want to give away your training programs otherwise.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Is that cool?
Just give general information.
Yeah,
so that's no problem.
2 easy. We'll just put
Yeah, so in terms of the training, you generally don't want to differ too much what you're doing from person to person. You're both trying to essentially achieve the same goal, kind of achieve muscle growth, if that is your goal, but the training doesn't differ too much. Especially with the strength training, you want to have that directed with building muscle, building strength, not trying to use your strength training as like a cardio workout to be burning calories. In terms of the like specifics of what you do, it's kind of hard for me to like outline like a whole training program over over things. And give like some resources. I don't know if you guys are familiar with someone like Jeff Nippard.
Oh yeah.
He has he's like got a really good beginner's training program that like I probably highly recommend someone who's just getting to the gym.
What about in terms of rep ranges? What would you like? How many reps? How many sets? Would you stick to compounds? Would you do isolations? Like what would you recommend in terms of
Compound
basics?
is when you have more than one muscle group involved. Isolation is one muscle group. Yeah. So we're dealing with newbies here, so we got to make sure.
Yeah. So simplify it. Just pick like 3-4 compound movements that you can kind of base your training days around. So I'm a powerlifter. I'm going to pick squat, bench, deadlift. Yep. Train them accordingly on those days and try to get stronger across a variety of rep ranges. I'll give you like a very simple structure of a breakdown of a program that I would use over like a 12-week block. For like the first 4 weeks, I'll be doing like sets of 10, reduce that to 8, 6, and 4, and try to kind of achieve like I think we might have touched on that, or going into touching on that, like progressive overload.
Yeah.
And kind of touch on that a bit more, but just try to essentially get a bit stronger, get a bit better each time that you're doing the workouts.
And if you want a more detailed overview, go to the first link in the bio and buy a fucking program, cunts.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the way you're going to see the best results at the end of the day. You know, you find someone, you tell them what your goals are, and they'll...
Or come to a great gym like Aspire Strength and Conditioning. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
Where's that located again? North Sydney?
It's North Sydney.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of that one. Right by the train station, isn't it?
There you go.
Yeah, beautiful. All right, guys. So we have some questions from the Discord. So I want to run through them and get your your thoughts on them. So the first one here, it's how do I do a proper push-up? Please help. A lot of because he says the way he does it, people laugh at him at school, and he doesn't know why. Because he's
yeah. What do you think about the push-ups where people have their it's like chicken winged out, like this? That's
how do you do a proper push-up?
We low-key allowed to ask the question asker for a video of the push-up.
I kind of want to see it as well.
I would love to see
the issue is we might join the people at school and just laugh at the form. You know, that might be bullying.
I've just realised it's Carmen.
Is it Carmen?
So it's a female.
Oh, there you go. So I'll break it down into like your arm placement and your kind of how you're bracing through your core.
Yep.
Arm placement, I mean, you guys can see it, but you don't want to be kind of, as you said, chicken winged out to the
like
side,
90 degrees out.
Straight out. You're going to want to be somewhere that's halfway in between, 45 degrees out.
Oh, okay.
Maybe like where on your body would your hands be represented? So like, would your hands be at your shoulder height or your chest height? Like,
so, I mean, I guess in relation to how I am now, chest height, somewhere like that. Kind of unknown one is that shoulder blade positioning. What you want to be doing is as you're finishing the push-up or as you have your arms extended, arms locked out, think about reaching through your shoulder blades, or essentially you guys can kind of see what I'm doing, pushing your shoulders forward. Then in that bottom position of the push-up, as you're lowering yourself, keep your elbows semi-tucked so they're not kind of going straight along the body, but just still staying in that flared position. And you're allowing your shoulder blades to come together in that bottom position. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yep.
In terms of how you're kind of bracing through your core, a good indicator of where you if for you to maintain like a neutral spine position, just squeeze your butt. That's going to kind of set your hips in a good neutral position. Try and keep that position held the whole time that you're doing the push-up.
Great tip.
It is one of those things where if you start establishing mind-muscle connection from like a young age in your gym career, you like won't even consciously do it when you're like older, but you're still maintaining that form.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But it's like, if you go at the start by trying to squeeze your ass, like not with your hands. Yeah. By the end, like
get someone to squeeze it for you.
Yeah, no, you can have a friend, like that's fine.
How can I do a push-up? I'm squeezing my ass.
All right, next question. So
DM us questions, DM us pictures of you squeezing your ass.
While doing a push-up.
She's 17.
No, I'm talking about the guys.
Okay.
All right, so Crab King, can you please ask him if you have had any clients that have tried to sexualize the workouts? Because my dad used to be a personal trainer, and he said that the MILFs would try to sexualize everything.
So I'll give a story about
without incriminating yourself.
Yeah, I'm not going to name
breaking someone's marriage.
I'm not going to name drop anyone, but I'll give you one that was. I wasn't actually training her. This was the prior owner of the gym, and he was a. How would I call him? Amateur massage therapist. So he'd do these kind of foam rolling, stretching routines over a foam roller. This woman sounded like she was enjoying it a bit too much. So he was kind of making these orgasmic screams that she was going.
I don't think we've even explained this. Ravi is Chris's PT. That's how we're introduced.
All right, yeah. So that's
I don't know if she was like trying to sexualize it or really just enjoying herself at the time. But
and he
I
was
have
just
seen
stretching
videos
her
like
out.
that.
What's that?
And he was just stretching her out.
He was just stretching her out.
I mean, that's one way to say it.
Yeah, that's one.
Do you remember that? Right? That's hilarious.
My God. All right, so the next question from Steve: how do you stay motivated while working out? Because I just get bored when I keep going.
Great question.
Especially when I'm alone.
So what I do is lock myself in a room and just binge watch 4 hours of David Goggins videos. Dry scoop some creatine and just run out the door. Who's going to carry the boats? Nah. So what you got to realize along the line, along the scope of your fitness journey is that motivation ultimately is a fleeting resource. You're going to have like periods that you are really, really motivated, but realistically, there are going to be periods where the gym is like the last place you're going to be. You're going to have life stresses.
When you get in a relationship.
100%, man.
Yeah.
Bro, so true.
Get a girlfriend who likes the gym.
Also, try different types of fitness in it, because like you like go powerlifting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there's some people who do bodybuilding, the aesthetics movement. I don't know if that's a style of gym, but yeah, there's that as well. You know,
RIPs is.
Yeah, exactly.
Rest in peace.
But like, yeah, try different things, because like one thing might not be your
recommendations I'd give are accountability is like a really big one.
Like find someone.
Find someone. Doesn't have to be getting coach. If you do get a coach, I know a really good one, you know. But even if you're just talking about it with your mates, like if they're your good mates, they're gonna kind of support you along this journey. So just having someone hold you a bit accountable, like, hey man, have you hit your gym sessions today? On top of that, build it into your routine. Like just make it habitual. I was talking to Chris the other day about like how it's kind of fallen in and out of his routine, but like I'm really impressed that he works like a really hectic office job. I'm sure you guys do too, but without fail, he's going past the gym. It's just something that he does, whether he's kind of in the mode of it of doing it or not. It's just part of your day that you do it. So those are my two big tips: accountability and just build it into your routine.
I would also say powerlifting, to your credit, is probably the best place to start gym, because you focus on the core. So like you'll learn how to do bench and shit. Yeah. And even if you do it for 6 months to a year, something like that, you'll develop a really good form for the key movements. You'll have a lot of strength. So like if you want to do bodybuilding now, suddenly you can do 90 for 8 rather than fucking 20. But it also is very incremental. So you've got that weight to motivate you. You're almost like, no, I got to hit 95 this week. Whereas if it's like pure muscle, you're not going to see anything for a few months, and like it's hard to tell, is this sliding, is this a pump, you know?
It goes a bit both ways with that, because you get to a point where you powerlifted enough that like chasing the numbers just becomes a bit neurotic. But it definitely can be like,
you go insane when you don't hit your lift.
Well, I was about to say on the motivation part, Steve, I'm not going to lie, bro. Sometimes you just need to fucking do it.
Yeah.
You don't just go when you're fucking motivated. Just if you need to go today, go.
Yeah. Find a time. And don't have it like, oh yeah, so I go to school and then, oh yeah, I'll go to gym. Have it like school isn't an option. You have to go to school when you're in high school. Yeah. Have it so gym is the same way. So if someone says, oh, do you want to hang out at 6? It's like, I can't at 6, but I can do it at 6:30. Like, because gym is just built into your life. Because
bro,
if you
just
do that,
honestly, David Goggins that shit.
Exactly.
Honestly, I was about to say
that shit, just do it.
Watch some Big Brandon Carter. Do you know who?
Yeah.
VBC.
Oh, he's an old school
Me and
guy.
Baz were on that joint where we were putting fucking 20 tea bags into boiling water and shit in the fridge, bro.
So Big Brandon Carter has this thing where he puts green tea, and he talks about that as much as what's his name? Kino Body talks about sparkling water.
Right.
Where green tea is his thing.
Yeah.
And so that's like the key to losing fat, drinking lots of green tea. So we were literally putting 20 tea bags in a fucking cup, and we were like drinking it cold, drinking it anything.
Oh, cold green tea.
Didn't work, unfortunately. All right, we got another question from Unmasked, and this is a really simple question, but it got a shit ton of reactions, which shows that how simple the questions are going to be that we're going to get.
Right.
I'm about to start at a gym. What are the things that I should start to work out? Looking to gain muscle, not lose weight.
Simple question, but like it's very multifaceted. I think I'll tie it back into the kind of recommendation I gave for a beginner is that I think I'll go right back to the start of when you're starting your fitness journey is learn how to lift safely, whether that involves getting a coach or trainer. There are a lot of good YouTube tutorials as well.
Do you know a good trainer in Sydney?
Say it again?
Do you know a good trainer?
I do. Have you heard of this gym, Aspire Strength and Conditioning?
I actually have heard of that. I have heard of it.
Yeah, that's
Aspire
a good gym.
Strength and beautiful.
Yeah.
Got it, yeah.
Good plug, boys.
Yeah.
So learn the foundational movements. I can break that down into like simplifying squat, bench press, overhead press, something like a pull-up. Stick to those ones to start. Learn how to do them correctly. If you're not going to get a trainer, find like a YouTube tutorial, but something that can make you like confident that you're competent in doing these things.
Yep.
Get on a training program. I gave that recommendation of the Jeff Nippard one. Little hack you guys can use is Reddit powerlifting. It gives you a lot of access to a good amount of programs on that.
Okay.
Stuff like Starting Strength's a fairly good resource.
Yes.
Mad Cow's 5x5. Just any program. A lot of those are quite simplified because all you're doing is inputting the number of like a rough estimate of what you think you're going to be lifting, and it just kind of goes through there. They're geared towards beginners, and stick to your program. Allow it to do its work. Don't ego lift. We can kind of get into what that is in a bit, but stick to your program because it's designed. It's been tried and true. It's going to last if you kind of stick with it.
This is a rhetorical question,
Yes.
but I think people need to hear it from an actual fitness expert.
Yeah.
When you're just starting the gym, do you need to be doing the fucking sideways bench press where you're pushing across the body, like the curls where you're going, like rack pulls? Like, should you be doing the kind of goofy movements, which might be good, you know, when you've stalled, like, you know, 5 years in?
Yeah.
At the start, should you be doing that, or should you be sticking to basic, you know,
There's leg
bench
thrusts and leg back butt movements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depends. Did Keno Body tell us to do that? No, realistically, you're going to progress like a really long way by just sticking to getting competent and getting strong at those foundational basic strength movements. They'll carry you a long way. I mean, I'm someone who's been training for coming on 10 years now, and my training is just like based predominantly around those movements. I'm sure you guys are the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, just get really good at doing those.
Baz and I have spoken, like, every beginner should probably start at least 6 months of 5x5. Like, just do the basics.
Just to summarize, would your advice kind of be like, okay, there's no one right answer, but find a program and stick to it.
Find a program and stick to it.
All right. So don't overthink it. Find a program, stick to it.
Yes.
All right.
Don't give it 2 weeks.
The next question, and actually the last question on the Discord that I found of the fucking good questions. By the way, you guys ask a lot of dumb questions.
Yeah. On the Instagram as well.
Just saying, boys. You
Can
ask
you
a lot
give
of.
one example of a dumb question?
Guys are savage, damn.
No, you got to see some of these questions. The Instagram was the same. Fuck me.
Can you please ask him how many times does he suck dick? That honestly, not that one isn't that bad of a question.
Now, look, do we all want to know the answer? Sure, but it doesn't mean you ask.
Yeah. So the last question. Sorry, what were you about to say?
Tune into Milk Bucket Only fans.
Yeah.
At 100K, that's what we promised.
All right. So the last question is, how many times should I be going to the gym
Per week?
That's a good question.
per week, per month?
Let's clarify. If you're training the person, so it's not just like, because obviously there's no direct right answer, but if you're saying like the average person, what would you recommend to them? Let's say like
they have
a
all the time in the
freestyle
world.
where, most people don't have all the time in the world.
I think our audience do.
Sure. Okay. Fuck it.
I can give two answers to that. Something that's optimal is and realistic for a beginner is 3 to 4 times a week, just because it's quite manageable, especially if you're coming into training for the first time. You're going to be dealing with a lot of soreness and fatigue.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you guys can probably attest to the
You
fact the
haven't
first
learned
time
to
you trained
love
your
the
legs.
DOMs.
Yeah, you feel like, what the fuck has happened right
Yeah.
now? 3 to 4 is like probably an optimal good amount. Like most training programs will kind of have an option for that. Realistic answer is something that you can stick to over a long time. So if you're in a state of like super motivation, you're like, I'm going to train 5 times a week, commit to 4 times and commit to that, stick to that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Beautiful. So if you're doing 3 to 4 times a week, that means that I'm just going to assume here that you're not really into the bro split. You're not into having a chest day and then a shoulder day and then a leg
Are
day.
you telling me you don't train triceps by themselves? Is that what you're trying to insinuate, Ravi?
So
because I might have to take away your credentials. To be honest.
So I assume you're more into when you join a couple of things. So what are your thoughts on push pull legs or upper lower or stuff like that?
Yeah.
Or
So
full body?
the kind of like the big argument over split, the contentious thing, like push pull legs and stuff like that. I think how you have to look at it is how you're equating and breaking down the weekly volume that you're doing across a muscle group.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. So say you're doing 15 sets of chest work, inner work, across your training session. If you are doing something like a bro split, or you got a chest and triceps day, you're doing 15 sets of chest work in that one day.
Yep.
The disadvantage comes at that, where if you're doing 15 sets of chest work in the one session, the likelihood that your quality of reps, the weight that you're using is going to degrade across the course that you're doing it.
Yeah.
The advantage of doing something like a push-pull leg split or even like a full body, you're breaking down that volume across like multiple days. So the things you need to look at, the things we talked about before, is that proximity to failure, but other considerations like hypertrophy is literally the weight that you're using, right? So say I'm bench pressing 3 times a week. or I'm bench pressing 1 time a week for that 15 sets. Don't bench press 15 sets in the one workout, guys.
Yeah.
But if I'm doing 5 sets across 3 sessions, I'm going to manage a lot more weight, a lot more volume. I'm going to be a lot more recovered compared to when I'm doing it just in the one session. So that's where the advantage of like a push-pull leg split will come in.
Can you explain, because like they might not understand the law of diminishing returns with gym, like how, you know, if you do 15 sets, the 15th set is not the same as the first set. Like, do you see that a lot? Do you see that misconception a lot, that like they think every work you do is equal to the first set, so to speak? I don't know if that makes sense.
And sorry to interrupt here, your train of thought, but I think I would actually disagree. I think that 4th set that takes you to the final peak might actually be more helpful than the first 3.
It might be like mentally, but in terms of muscle,
as in like that, if you're doing a set to failure and your plan takes you to failure, then if you didn't do that last set, which completely exhausted you, then the first 3 you would have gotten 70% of the results than if you'd done that last set.
that's only if you're not training in the rep range where you're 1 or 2 reps away from failure.
I want to hear your thoughts on either.
It's hard to give a specific answer like that without like context of this specific situation.
Yep.
What I will say, just my kind of overall takeaway of that is you don't get stronger from the work you do, you get stronger from the work that you adapt to. So say from that one last set, it takes you a little extra time to recover from. You may not have hit that extra set of chest or whatever you're training in that week time. You haven't got stronger from that, right?
Okay, so it's all about, are you going to continue the rest of your program?
Exactly.
It's not about that exercise. It's about the whole. It's about the week.
Yes.
Or it's about the month.
This ties perfectly into the first Instagram question, which is, what is the difference between progressive overload and ego lifting?
Okay. So progressive overload is pretty simple to define. It's a method of strength training where incrementally over the course of the program, you're increasing the stressor.
Yep.
Conventional wisdom is that you're putting more weight on the bar, right? But progressive overload can come in the form of increasing the reps, increasing the sets.
Duration.
Duration, rest time, moderating the tempo that you're doing lift, increasing the stressor that you're placing upon your body, right?
Yep.
Ego lifting is when you're doing something, might be in your means, might be out of your means, just for the sake of doing it. That's when the hot girl or hot guy comes into the gym and you're like, you've got 100 kilos on your program for squats and you're like, you know what, I'm doing 120 today.
It's where you see the guy with the like 120 degree arch on his bench press doing like 1 inch down and going up and down.
Man, don't hate on powerlifters like that.
Well, actually, here's something that you guys might not have noticed, but something that's really important. His program says what weight you must be lifting. And that's very important for beginners.
Really?
You have a lot of workouts where you go to bodybuilding.com and it'll just tell you do 3 sets of 12, do 3 sets of 5, and then do curls afterwards. But I assume you're talking about a powerlifting program which has the weight that you should be doing, and it'll tell you in 12 weeks what you're going to be benching.
And people don't realize this. Like me and Baz definitely had this. I'm sure you've had this over time just through like gym lifting before you actually became a PT. Like a lot of times when you're kind of the gym master to your young gym rat, you'll see them doing a weight and you're like, fuck off, dude, put 10 kilos more on that because you're not doing the full thing. And then they do it and they're like, oh, I can do that because they're not actually going to their full potential. And so when you see someone who's doing 3x10 when they're first starting off, they think that this is hard. Baz did it for me. Baz was my fucking gym sensei, Master Splinter. And he's like, nah, fuck this 35 kilo bench, you dickhead. We're putting 45 on, right? I'm like, oh, I can do this. It's way harder. And yeah, exactly. But like, yeah, the importance of actually knowing some kind of weight range to go for is
yeah, really it definitely can help to have someone like kick your butt a little bit when you're first sticking out. In terms of how I program, actually, I don't know if you guys have heard, this is getting a bit more advanced powerlifting terminology, but even how I'd program for like a general population client is using a system called RPE. So that's rate of perceived exertion. Yep. So say you're working up to a set of squats where you're working up to a RPE 8 set. That means you'll have this is perceived exertion. So you feel like you've worked up to a set where you have 2 reps left in the tank. The advantage of this and how I've like transitioned my programming from specific weights and percentages compared to using RPE now is that, especially with general population clients, they're not living in the gym, right? Like they've got lives, they've got relationships, they've got work to do. So they might come into the gym feeling fucking fantastic and they might come into the gym feeling like absolute shit. Doing something like as simple as asking, hey, did that feel heavy? Did that feel hard? Or did that feel pretty good? That goes a long way. So it's good and bad for powerlifters. So like I've found when programming for myself, I'm not a good judge, like subjectively, of like how heavy a weight feels. Like I can almost die under a squat, and I'm like, yeah, I've got 3 more, man. Up from there. So there's definitely like applications of it, but that's generally how I'll go about programming now.
So now you're an RP fan, not So for example, are you familiar with Strong Lift 5x5?
Yes.
Yeah. So you just plug in whatever you're doing, and it'll tell you exactly what to do for the next 6 months.
So I like that for like a beginner, because it can be hard for them to conceptualize like something like RPE. I definitely recommend like your listeners who are kind of newer into lifting, kind of go out, learn about RPE. And even if you are following a program like Strong Lifts, get versed in kind of being in touch with your body, how the weight's feeling, and like kind of get in tune with using that system. Like even if it's got prescribed weight for you to hit on that 5x5, say like, oh, I feel like that was like at a 6, like I could have done 4 more reps on that set, and just track that, because that's always a good skill set to have on your lifting.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the ones, it said, is diet more important than workout while bulking? But I'll add that to bulking / cutting. So I think we all know the answer like here, but yeah.
So it's an interesting question, because like you could, like a complete noob could probably start training without taking any sort of like specific nutritional intervention, and they'd probably get some kind of results from that. So from that sense, training would probably, if the goal is building muscle, be more important. You're obviously going to hit a point of diminishing returns with that, where you do need to introduce some kind of nutritional intervention with it. If you're bulking for the sake of bulking, like you just want to be a thick boy, I probably just go eat what you want, But the training is going to kind of dictate where that composition that you're gaining weight is coming from.
So it sounds like, I mean, most people would say your training is not as important as your nutrition, but it's really interesting to hear that you actually, it sounds like you're saying they're both very important, but if your training is not on point, then you're not going to make gains.
Why don't we refine the okay, actually, answer that question first. Sorry.
What was it?
Yeah. So it kind of sounds like what you're saying is that both are very important.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to make gains, then if your training's not on point, then it doesn't matter how much protein you're going to eat. You're not going to build muscle by just.
So from the context of a beginner, you can basically like look at a weight and you're going to make gains. You could be on the shittest
you
program.
do one bicep flex in the mirror. It's like,
So from that sense, you can have very on point training and make good gains with it, especially if you're tying that in with, like, as you said, like good nutritional practices, you'll probably go a long way. From that sense, like any training will kind of go like a really long way.
So I want to refine the question a bit. Rather than good diet, what if we say caloric intake? Because a lot of people think, I'm in the gym 2 hours a day, I should be cutting. Or I'm in the gym 2 hours a day, I should be getting heaps of muscle mass, but they're not eating enough. So what do you think, what role does caloric intake, so like the amount of food or energy you consume, play in bodybuilding?
I mean...
or just strength, like gym in general?
Yeah. I'll use the term energy balance. So when I say energy balance, that's just referring to if you're in a balanced state of energy, your caloric intake is the same as what you're expending. Your weight's going to stay neutral the whole time. So in terms of dictating your weight and muscle gain, fat loss, energy balance is everything. So you either want to be in a state of deficit where you're eating less calories than you're actually exerting, to be in a deficit, and vice versa when you're bulking. You have to be eating more than you're...
But Ravi, the gym wizard at my gym, told me that when I go keto, I burn fat overnight, even if I'm only eating 17 steaks a day. Are you telling me it's all down to calorie input and output?
Look, he's not... If you're being like strictly speaking, he's not actually wrong. So when you're on a ketogenic diet, the fuel source that you're utilizing is fat. The misnomer comes in is that you're smashing like a coffee with like half a stick of butter in it. So you're not burning body fat off you. You're burning the body fat that you drank in a sense that that's your immediate energy source. So it's not strictly wrong.
Yeah. It's just that at the end of the day, like the conservation of energy exists. So you still have to burn more calories. It doesn't matter what you do.
So with keto, vegan, anything, at the end of the day, does it just matter about calories in versus calorie out? I mean, or is there exceptions?
I might piss off a lot of nutritionists, but I'm like a big kind of proponent of what you can stick to is going to go a long way. I mean, I have few things to say about stuff like carnivore and vegan to an extent. Vegan's okay, but like carnivore.
What do you have to say about I was actually just watching that Joe Rogan video where he was talking about his results.
Suck.
And I was thinking about doing carnivore for
Bro, I mean, not to fucking beat Joe Rogan while he's down, but when he's like, yeah, I got more aggressive. I got more, I felt like a wolf running with the pack. I'm like, bro, shut the fuck up, man.
You seen the clip where he's talking to Bill Burr? It's like, hey, do you feel more aggressive? He's like, no, Joe, you psychopath.
To give context, it was the greatest thing because it was in like a fucking podcast with 17 people at the Comedy Store while the elections were happening where Trump ended up winning.
Oh, yeah.
So it was a massive, like, comedians were coming in and out. And Bill Burr's like, oh, thanks for the fucking elk, Joe. And then Joe, like, Ravi says, like, oh, yeah, did you feel more aggressive eating it? He's like, no, you fucking retard. What are you talking about?
So what did you think about the carnivore diet? Like, what are your thoughts?
I mean, realistically, you just need some kind of fiber and vegetable content to keep your system going.
Bro, your shits must be horrible when you're on the carnivore diet.
People will tend to actually do quite well on a carnivore diet because you'll find a lot of people that go on it initially are having a lot of autoimmune issues or like food intolerance issues. And essentially what it is a very stringent elimination diet. So when I say elimination diet, you're eliminating like a whole group of food groups.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's just like red meats and greens, right?
Yeah, so generally you want to be eating no greens.
Oh, no greens.
No greens.
It's literally
I
just
thought you could have a little bit of vegetables, yeah?
Nah.
Right, it's just meat.
Carnivore.
I know, but so I heard Peterson talk
Bone
about
broth is the closest thing you get to a vegetable in a carnivore diet. Yeah, so I think the kind of founding principle of it is like eat head to tail. You're eating a lot of organ and organ meat, especially because that's quite high in nutrient density, and that's definitely a good thing for people to incorporate into their diets. People do initially quite well on that because like any sort of ketogenic diet where you're eliminating carbohydrates, that initial weight loss can be quite motivating because you get rid of carbohydrates in your diet. It's literally in the name, right? Hydrates. Yeah. Every gram of carbohydrates you eat, 3 grams of glycogen will bind to it. So that's where that term kind of like water weight comes from. Yep. So that initial weight loss that you will get on like a carnivore diet does make sense. It can be quite easy to stick to just from the sense of like once you've eaten one steak, you don't often want to eat another one, like so.
Very satiating.
Yeah, it's the satiating diet, but just the nutritional deficiencies that you're going to encounter.
So are you telling me that if I have sausages for breakfast and then half a chicken for lunch and then a New York strip steak for dinner, and if I do that on and on for 30 days, how do you think I'm going to be feeling by the 30th day?
Only one way to find out, Baz.
Honestly, I was going to do it.
The thing is, like, it makes sense because if you think about the high density, like even though protein
that you're getting there,
but
like that's 300 grams a day.
But think about fat is obviously the most dense of the macros, right? But like if you're talking about the things that have the most calories in the least thing, it's usually carbs. It's like chips. You'll eat a packet of chips and it's fucking 400 calories.
So this is an interesting argument that like a lot of carnivore proponents will kind of go to and talk about how like sugar is killing us and carbs are killing us and stuff like that. People aren't often like overeating on just carbohydrates. Like nobody's there smashing a bag of sugar, right? They're eating a lot of, I don't know, maybe. Listener can phone in if you're smashing a bag of sugar. It's often a case of hyper-palatable food. So food that's like really easy to eat. Oftentimes that's a combination of carbohydrates and fat. On your point though, molecular weight of food compared to like its energy density is actually fat. So like, as you said, the macro of fat is
8 grams or something.
9 grams of calories per
9
calories per gram of I'll give a little bulking story of my PR representation, Chris. When he first came into the gym, he was going through like a bulk, and I think you'll happily say like a little dirty bulk phase.
Yeah, relatively so.
So I was like questioning it just because like you were still in like really good shape. I'm like, I don't know how dirty he's going with this. And I wanted to get like a bit of insight as to what you were doing nutritionally. I'm like, so like, what are you going about? What are you doing? Like, how are you going about your bulk? And he's like, oh yeah, I keep a bottle of olive oil in my desk. I'm just like,
He's like,
your co-workers must think you're an absolute
I got
maniac.
famous from the olive oil.
Yeah, you told me, bro. You became the olive oil man, didn't you?
Yeah, the HR used to come up to me. Are you okay? Is everything okay? I heard you were drinking olive oil at your desk. Is everything going well?
But the thing is, do you try to hide it, or do you just go, everyone, olive oil time?
Hold your head up, go to the kitchen, get a glass, pour the oil in, drink it, have a bit of tea or whatever to wash out the oil, and
Then no one
ignore
should
the
know.
stares. Go back to your work.
Do people stare?
Of course they
You're
do.
doing
You're
a
drinking
shot of
oil.
olive oil, of
But
course.
you're in the kitchen. How many people? You do a
like,
kitchen, no
I'll
one's there.
take the glass back to my desk, open my drawer. There's a big bottle of
Okay.
olive oil. I'm like, on my desk, here we go. Yep, that's good.
That's
Drink
like
the
the
oil.
That's the dirtiest of box because you're not even eating macas. You're just drinking olive oil like it's a
but
fucking
olive
beer.
oil is so good for you, though. Doesn't it have hella, like the fats that are inside it?
It was the time efficiency. I could drink the oil in about 1 minute and then get back to work rather than go out, get a meal, eat it, have a bit of a food coma, and then get back to work.
300
I mean,
calories.
the Mediterranean diet, people say like the average around that kind of area is like fucking 102 or some goofy shit. Like if you just eat fish and olive oil, you'll live for a long time.
I mean, it's definitely a good thing to be incorporating some stuff that has like that monounsaturated fats in. I'm not sure if I'd go as far as the Chris technique of just shotgunning olive oil in it.
Oh, look, good times. Good times.
Basil likes it because it ties in with Arabic culture of
I
doing a
fucking
shotgun.
love olive oil. I don't have a shot of it, but I may as well over the course of the
Try
day.
it.
Yeah, and there's the stuff that I get as well because my dad has an olive farm, so he makes olive
Must
oil.
be nice.
Bro,
It'd be nice.
I'll tell you, this olive oil that we get, it's amazing. I don't have any at the moment, but I'm going to get some in the coming days.
Waiting for some.
Some olive oil, yeah?
One of the questions we have, and this is probably the most common question you'll hear from like a young gym rat, is what age to start lifting? Because everyone's heard like lifting stunts your growth and stuff. And then you'll talk to a PT at a gym and they'll be like, nah, that's a rumor or whatever. What is your thoughts on the whole debate? Like when would you advise someone?
In terms of physiologically, like when they say like your bone structuring is set, you're still growing to the point that you've kind of hit puberty and even beyond that. However, you can definitely get into some kind of like strength training. That doesn't mean loading up like your maximum weight on like a squat or anything like that. It means just like forming foundations of lift, even this lifting with a barbell or something like that at like a relatively young age. I'd put it at like 13, 14.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of like the stunting of growth, realistically, that's not really going to happen. You get more spinal compression across the day, like just from standing up and the general walking around that you do. Like you'll end up shorter at the end of the day. Than
I've heard you lose 2 inches of height over the course of the day, which is pretty fucked.
Jeez. Wait, over the course of a day?
Yeah.
2 inches.
Because obviously
way.
if you're standing up, it's
You're from
different.
6'4" to 6'2".
Aaron's 6'4" now. He gained an inch in a day, apparently.
Bro, nah, surely not.
This is just what I've heard. This is bro science.
I don't know if it's that much, but
Yeah.
Maybe 2 centimeters.
sounds good though, you know?
2 centimeters could make sense.
I know, but you know how like we're talking as if we know what we're talking.
Yeah. The thing is, he knows what he's talking about. He's got a master's degree as well.
I think I've heard a lot of times with the stunting of growth, it happens when people try to become like ego lifting gym rats at a young age, and then they fuck up their spine.
Yeah.
And it like fucks up their growth long term. But if you're like being smart, this is just what I've heard, of course, and you're the expert here. But like,
What is being smart?
meaning you're
They're
not
14.
ego, like you take the ego out, which is hard to do at 14, obviously. But if you can do bench press for a year and you don't have shoulder pain, which I know me and Baz cannot attest to having because we had shoulder pain from the start. You know what I mean?
true.
Then I feel like, I don't know, you might be in a better position. But I've heard of like a lot of people say it's a myth, but I don't know. You know.
yeah, I think it's just using some common sense. Definitely if you're lifting at a younger age, trying to get some kind of assistance, like some kind of coaching, or if you're doing it like your school or something like that, ideally they'll have someone set up to help you with that. Definitely just don't go in without any guidance if you're trying to get into it from a young age.
Yeah.
Still follow like a conventional strength program, but just probably moderate the weights that you are lifting, that you are able to maintain really good form and do it safely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Mike Chang used to say any sort of overhead movements would stunt your growth. But a bench press or a bicep curl, something like that is going to be fine. Do you know if that's bullshit or if that's got some merit
Hey,
to it?
if Mike said it, you know.
Yeah,
It's gospel.
he's the natty god.
What's Mike up to these
Well,
days?
he got banned off YouTube, right? He got banned. He was the biggest fitness channel on all of YouTube, and he got
Facts were
banned.
too good.
Well, it's because the supplement he was trying to fucking fling
Yeah.
did nothing.
Really?
It was one
I
of those.
feel like everyone on YouTube will get banned then.
Yeah,
Just trying to find
100%.
supplements.
It was one of those
Christian
things.
Guzmaz with his fucking ghost pre-workout and shit.
Yeah, but I think he had one of those things which technically made you burn a bit more calories in a day. Like it had a bunch of caffeine in it.
Is it called clenbuterol?
No, I wish it was, but it just had a bit of caffeine in it, which means that you burn an extra 4 calories in a day.
Oh wow.
And then he marketed it as fat burning.
Yeah.
And yeah, he got banned off YouTube. It was so extreme, the lies he was saying.
Okay, so I think we got maybe 3 more questions. We'll see.
Yeah.
But one of the questions is how to lose weight quickly, and is there side effects of it?
Clenbuterol.
I mean, that's one option.
Clenbuterol is probably realistically your best option losing weight quickly. Don't take clenbuterol.
Eat clen, train hard.
I'll kind of give an answer for people who are versed in tracking somewhat and just give like a caloric like a caloric intake goal they can kind of go for, and also just in terms of like some kind of nutritional guidelines, specifically what to eat for that. In terms of those who
That
are
ties
kind
in
of
perfectly because someone said, what food should you eat when you're
Right,
cutting and
there you
bulking?
go.
So there we go.
in terms of like if you are versed in tracking or like looking to get into it, work out that maintenance calorie intake. You can use a formula off the internet. They're all like pretty good of just giving you a ballpark, depending on how accurate you want to be. Track your calories according to that amount, then track your weight. If you're not losing weight, if you're not gaining weight, you've found your maintenance calories. Conventionally when you're running like a deficit, when you're running a cut, you go anywhere from like 250 to 300 is like a pretty moderate maintainable deficit.
Yep.
A lot of some physique athletes, but a lot in the strength training community where, funnily enough, we don't really like dieting. We like doing squats and drinking chocolate milk.
You wouldn't say that.
The chocolate milk.
Have you seen the man recently? Man's got a 6-pack now.
So strength training community tends to look at dieting period as like ideally getting it done in a sprint rather than a marathon. So utilizing a thing like a mini cut. Mini cut refers to something that is a lot stricter of a deficit, so a lot more of a deficit, anywhere from 500 to even 1,000 calories. Benefit of that is you're done. You can get like a good lot of progress done in say like 4 weeks, which is about the recommendation I give for how long I'd run a mini cut. Detrimental effects of that. In terms physiologically, you're not going to get too bad in terms of like the hormonal response just because you're running it for that shorter period of time. You are likely going to be hungry, especially if you are in 1,000 calorie deficit. But in terms of losing weight quickly, that is probably a good option to do.
Yep.
And as long as you're like equating your protein needs, you're probably going to be okay in terms of muscle loss as long as your training is kind of accounting for that.
You guys do that because you compete in weight classes, right?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't do that for the strength athletes that I do nutritional for because, I mean, how I'll set it up is that they're not dieting into a period where they're going into a comp because that's an added stress and obviously you're not – it's not conducive to be in a deficit while you're trying to get stronger, right? But yeah, a lot of strength athletes are kind of using that over like an extended period. Maybe they're away from competition and want to kind of get an improved body composition response.
It does always suck when you're trying to hit a PR while cutting. Like I'm gonna kill myself. This is fucking awful right now. Okay, and I mean you have kind of said this. I don't know. They said best way to split muscle groups, but maybe if you speak about actual muscle groups, so like what if you were to just say you've got an average, let's say 18-year-old, they've got maybe let's say they're busy 9 to 5, but they've got 2-hour windows, so they can train like as many times as you recommend. How would you go about like what muscle groups would you pair with what? Like,
I mean, I can give the scientific volume recommendations of it's like 20-ish, 15 to 20-ish sets for a beginner to intermediate and upper body, and you can extend that slightly to 17 to like 25 on lower body movements. I'll give just something more specific is if you're following some kind of beginner program, that's going to kind of account for how much volume you're doing across the week. So I'd just say follow something like that. That'd be a pretty good recommendation.
So like a 5x5 or something like that, where you get like a good like foundation or something like that.
As long as you find you are progressing, so like a 5x5, obviously the means of progression is adding weight to the bar. As long as you find you are kind of doing that and recovering from that, that's going to be a good volume recommendation.
Cool. I've got something that's going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want you to rate these from 1 to 3. Bodybuilding. And when I mean bodybuilding, I mean Kai Green, fucking the other guy, you know, like big shit, not like looking aesthetic. Powerlifting and strongman. And I want you to say rate them the coolest.
Surely bodybuilding is number one.
I don't know if I agree. I think I would go strongman number 1. I'm not going to lie.
I think I'm with you, honestly, because realistically, powerlifting is probably, like, I'm a powerlifter and like in my heart I wanted to put it number 1, but it's like the most unathletic and like boring spectator sport out there. Like if you've ever been to a powerlifting meet, it's the most boring shit you can go to. Like you're just watching endless kind of squats, bench, and deadlift.
How hype are you when you or your teammate
I'm
gets
like,
the thing up?
it's the best thing ever,
Yeah,
but that's
yeah.
like maybe 10 minutes of your day, right?
It's like a soccer game where you see a guy score. Like sometimes they don't score and it's not that fun.
Whereas
But when they hit it-
one of my good mates, shout out to Brent, competes in strongman, and you go to a strongman event and like, what are you going to do? Oh, he's pulling a truck. Okay.
Yeah.
He's deadlifting a car. Like,
yeah,
he's
lifting a 150 kilo stone off the ground somehow. Like
This is why I was saying bodybuilding has got to be one. Because at the end of the day, do you want to be sitting there lifting weights, eating dry chicken, and kind of talking with your lame friends, or do you want to be getting pussy? Do you want to be looking shredded?
I don't think
Do you want to
bodybuilders.
be looking sick?
I honestly think powerlifters definitely, because there's a big movement within women in powerlifting, way more than bodybuilding.
yeah, bro, we crush pussy.
Bro, look, you'll crush pussy with a really strong pelvic floor, but you'll still crush pussy, you know what I mean? And fucking strong men are all 7 feet tall, so you got that. Whereas,
Have you seen Half Thor Bjornsson and his wife? How does that work?
Ridiculous. Like the
Have you
fucking,
seen his wife?
Yeah, the pictures between him and the fucking girl, and she's like,
Lady.
There's a German word called Standgeblage, which means stand suck.
Standing blowjob?
And it's someone who can stand upright while giving a blowjob. And that is this woman. It's ridiculous. And then you add like his fucking hip thrusts must be ridiculously powerful. Like this woman's getting UTI every time just 'cause it's so spread open. You know?
Did you say, sorry, I was about to say, but did you finish the last question from the Instagram or?
There are a few more, but we already kind of like spoke about them, you know what I mean?
fair enough. Very similar to
I
Discord.
want to know so we had a TikTok and it kind of blew up a bit. And we got a lot of negative attention because
You have 100,000 followers on TikTok.
Yeah, Baz likes to say that. Baz also likes to say he has a 12-inch dick because he figures if you round up, 6.2, that's closer. We round up, don't we? We don't round down.
If we're going by the nearest 12, then
Yeah, of course,
6.1
we
inches.
work
It's
in
12
feet.
inches.
But we had it and we were essentially criticizing bodybuilding as a sport, so to speak. It was more me and Aaron as opposed to Baz. But we were saying more like the posing in the G-string. What are your thoughts on, could you ever see yourself up there in a bright pink Speedo, having a fucking flex?
I need a spray tan, right?
I mean, that's almost the issue. Like if I was doing bodybuilding, I'd come out with the same skin color as you. And it's like, bro, this feels like something, this is not like racially insensitive. I don't know.
Brendan Shaw touched and he coined the term chocolate face.
Yeah.
And, like bodybuilders get like super tan. Like, oh, he just looks like a black guy.
Chocolate face.
I mean, when Chris is done with this cut, I'm just going to whip out a speedo and say, yeah, we're on stage now, Chris.
You won't need to whip
What
it
do you
out.
reckon,
He'll
mate?
bring one in from his own collection.
Fun fact for the viewers, Chris is whipping it out right now.
If only there were cameras.
Soon.
On bodybuilding, I don't know. I think it's like intriguing. It's
definitely
weird.
a real
It's weird
sport.
as hell,
Come on.
but it's like intriguing at the same time. Like you just see these freaking monsters on the stage. Like there's something just kind of fascinating about that. Like going to a human zoo, just seeing these absolute freaks of nature. So
The real joke is natural bodybuilding. You see these guys.
Especially because they're not actually natural.
No, but when you see the actual natural ones and they're just not that big. And you're like, all right, I get it. Fair enough. So let's watch some real bodybuilding now.
What do you think of classic bodybuilding, like the ones where they say, I forget what his fucking name was. He's like a big South African dude, but like Arnold, those guys where they had the, you know, the thin waist, the big shoulders versus these days where it's just, if there's a muscle on my neck, I'm trying to grow it.
I personally like I'm more intrigued by the open bodybuilding just because I just want to see like a freak up there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It is literally a freak show.
I didn't know you could have a muscle there. Like,
Same. I'm the exact same.
yeah.
Oh, far out. All right, boys. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. This is episode 46. We've got Ravi from the podcast. If you want to check out Ravi, we're going to have links in the bio. We're going to have his Instagram. We're going to have his website. If they're going to reach out to you, what's the preferred way to reach out to you? Are they going to call you or would you prefer them to DM you?
So we've got all our contact info and information. We'll have the link below. If you're looking to get some kind of online programming or even some personal training from myself, shoot me a D on Instagram.
Beautiful.
And if you're in the Sydney area, come out. Try the gym, see what it's like, see if it's your kind of vibe. If you're overseas, we've got a lot of overseas people, fucking shoot him a DM. Maybe he can help set up your program because it really helps a lot when you have someone who actually has experience and isn't
100%.
just saying, oh yeah, do this. You know what I mean? Like with some cookie cutter bullshit. Like it helps start your, like me and Baz can attest, we started the gym having no idea what we were trying to do. So we were watching 1,000 YouTube videos trying to figure out, oh, is this good? Is this good? And at the end of the day, most of our training is fucking, oh yeah, we'll hit the dumbbells, we'll hit the bench press, we'll hit this and that. It's like,
Absolutely.
it's mostly kind of the basic stuff. So if you can get someone to help guide you along the way, it can help a lot. So definitely make sure to hit up Ravi and fucking do this. And the key word this week is eat, clean, trend hard.
Absolutely.
It's a great one right there.
And look, guys, if you're going to spend time in the gym, if you're going to use your time there, you may as well be getting the most out of it.
Yeah.
You may as well have a good program. You may as well have some good nutrition. Find the guidance, and the guidance is right here.
100%.
Yeah. You know what to do.
Move to North Sydney now.
Thanks, boys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for
worries,
coming on,
mate.
Ravi.